Hi, I'm Allison Tyler-Jones, and I'm a professional photographer specializing in families and children. This video is for photographers who have already been shooting in natural light and want to dip their toes into the scary world of studio lighting. It's also for photographers who want to continually learn and improve their craft. The techniques in this video will give you the control and confidence to light any kid, anywhere. Why are you not using studio lighting in your work right now? Some of the most common objections that I hear from colleagues are, oh, studio lighting, it's too posed, it locks me down, I can't be creative. Maybe it's just technically too intimidating, too much math, too many things to remember. I get it, I felt the same way when I began using studio lighting. I was just getting to the point where I could get a decent in-focus shot of a kid, and now we're gonna add studio lighting to the mix? I quickly found that working with studio lighting gives me complete creative control. Whether I'm in an actual studio or in my client's home, bringing my own lighting and knowing how to use it gives me the ability to achieve what I consider to be the two most important things in any portrait: gorgeous light and authentic expression. When I bring my own lighting, I don't have to hunt for light or change my settings if the sun dips behind a cloud. I'm not worried about weather or time of day. I can make gorgeous light happen anytime and work around the kids' schedule. Instead of trying to photograph kids at the golden hour, which, as every mother knows, is the witching hour for most children. Not good. With complete control of my lighting, I can make an image look soft and romantic like window light, or bright and energetic like an editorial spread in a magazine. Maybe I'm feeling dark and moody and I want a more fine art feel to my work. All with the same light and background in the same space in a very short period of time. In fact, during this video, we will be using the same background and main light for every shoot we do. As important as good lighting is, equally or perhaps more important is capturing that child's personality by creating an environment where they can be themselves and give me their authentic expression. Working with the studio lighting setup actually eliminates distractions and lets me establish a real connection with the child. Rather than chasing a kid around the park and competing with an environment for the child's attention, the studio set is a bit foreign to them, so I become the human factor that they can relate to. And when I can interact with a child, I can capture their personality in an image. In this video, we aren't going to spend time talking about lighting theory or the pros and cons of every single modifier and light on the market. Instead, this video was created to share the shortcuts and tips that I use in my studio every single day to achieve gorgeous lighting and authentic expression. This is no easy task, by the way. Most photography books or instructional videos you will find feature well-behaved supermodels. I want you to learn those same lighting techniques, but I realize I'm asking you to apply them to the most difficult subject matter out there, kids. And speaking of kids, that's the best place for any shoot to begin. Let's start with the kid. Before every shoot I do, I meet in advance with the parents to learn about each child I'll be photographing and to set expectations for our shoot. Here are some of the top questions that I recommend that you ask your clients. What's the children's personality type? Are they a slow warm-up? Are they really outgoing? A little ADHD? What are they obsessed with? Is Legos their love, or are they obsessed with Captain America or Barbie? What do they absolutely hate? This is an important one because you don't want to do anything that they absolutely hate. What have been their past photographic experiences? Have they been beaten into submission by a dad who's constantly taking pictures of them? Do they have a cheesy smile that they trot out for every photo opportunity? Are they naughty? Have they been crazy in the past? Or do they tend to be too controlled in those situations? One of the more illuminating questions I ask parents is, if you had to use a fashion style to describe your child, what would it be? Are they preppy, like Ralph Lauren or Burberry? Would they be more chic, like Dior, or rock and roll, like John Galliano? Are they diva and glamorous, or do they tend to be more sporty? Not only does that give me an idea of clothing recommendations, but it gives me an idea of that child's personality. I also like to ask, what's something unique about your child? your favorite thing about them. What is it that you love most about them that you see is something really unique about that child? I learn really good insights from this question. Often I'll get answers like, well, they're really an old soul. They tend to be a really mature person in a little body. Or they'll also give me information about the hierarchy in the family, the pecking order. Sometimes the oldest kid really isn't the bossiest kid. It might be the second kid. The pre-shoot consultation is also critical to set expectations with the parents and let them know how I work and what it is that I need from them during the shoot. I may need them to be close by to comfort a child, or if they're distracting and it's making things difficult, I may send them out. One of the main things I tell parents is don't threaten or bribe your kids on the way over. I want the kids to feel like that coming to my studio is a fun time. It's going to be a fun thing rather than, you better be good or you're going to be in trouble, or that they feel like it's something, if they feel like they have to be bribed over it, then it's not going to be something that they're going to see as fun. One thing that's really come up recently is I have to let them know that they can get one iPhone pic for their Instagram, and then they need to put it away. I also let them know that once the shoot begins, once they walk through those doors, that I'm in control. I don't want them to feel upset about that. I want to set that expectation ahead of time so that they know that they don't have to be in control. They can just sit back and enjoy the show. All of that information helps me be forearmed for a great photo shoot. Hi, Rebecca. I'm so excited to photograph the girls today, and it was so fun to meet them out there. Love Daphne's hair. It's amazing.
Yeah, she's got crazy hair.
Yeah, so cute. So tell me, why are we photographing these girls today? What are you thinking? What's brought you here?
Well, for Daphne, I really want to catch her before she kind of graduates into the next age level. So she's kind of still young. She's still a kid. She's got that crazy, magical quality about her. She still believes in everything.
Yes.
And I feel like we're right on the cusp of it turning into the teenage years, so I kind of want to capture that before it's gone.
Yes.
That moment. And kind of the same for Phoebe because she's a little more mature, so kind of the same for her, and she follows her sister. So
love that. Well, and that's perfect. That's such a good motivation because they are still little and we can really get all that imagination, but also get a couple of soulful shots where you can see the emerging kids. It seems like inevitably we get something where that you see them, how they're going to look when they're older. So I'm really looking forward to that. Before every shoot I do, I meet in advance with the parents to learn about each child I'll be photographing and to set expectations for our shoot. Here are some of the top questions that I recommend that you ask your clients. What's the children's personality type? Are they a slow warm-up? Are they really outgoing? A little ADHD? What are they obsessed with? Is Legos their love, or are they obsessed with Captain America or Barbie? What do they absolutely hate? This is an important one because you don't want to do anything that they absolutely hate. What have been their past photographic experiences? Have they been beaten into submission by a dad who's constantly taking pictures of them? Do they have a cheesy smile that they trot out for every photo opportunity? Are they naughty? Have they been crazy in the past? Or do they tend to be too controlled in those situations? One of the more illuminating questions I ask parents is, if you had to use a fashion style to describe your child, what would it be? Are they preppy, like Ralph Lauren or Burberry? Would they be more chic, like Dior, or rock and roll, like John Galliano? Are they diva and glamorous, or do they tend to be more sporty? Not only does that give me an idea of clothing recommendations, but it gives me an idea of that child's personality. I also like to ask, what's something unique about your child or your favorite thing about them? What is it that you love most about them that you see is something really unique about that child? I learn really good insights from this question. Often I'll get answers like, well, they're really an old soul. They tend to be a really mature person in a little body. Or they'll also give me information about the hierarchy in the family, the pecking order. Sometimes the oldest kid really isn't the bossiest kid. It might be the second kid. Tell me what these kids are obsessed with. What is like the latest and greatest for Daphne and Phoebe at this point?
Oh, the latest and greatest. Daphne is obsessed with Harry Potter books. She's read all 5 of them. Phoebe's obsessed with photography and her guitar and anything animal related. And Daphne is very into trees, so if you want to bring up trees at any point.
Yes.
I know we don't have a tree in the studio, but she loves anything that has to do with trees.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
The pre-shoot consultation is also critical to set expectations with the parents and let them know how I work and what it is that I need from them during the shoot. I may need them to be close by to comfort a child, or if they're distracting and it's making things difficult, I may send them out. One of the main things I tell parents is don't threaten or bribe your kids on the way over. I want the kids to feel like that coming to my studio is a fun time. It's going to be a fun thing, rather than, you better be good or you're going to be in trouble, or that they feel like it's something. If they feel like they have to be bribed over it, then it's not going to be something that they're going to see as fun. One thing that's really come up recently is I have to let them know that they can get one iPhone pic for their Instagram, and then they need to put it away. I also let them know that once the shoot begins, once they walk through those doors, that I'm in control. I don't want them to feel upset about that. I want to set that expectation ahead of time so that they know that they don't have to be in control. They can just sit back and enjoy the show. All of that information helps me be forearmed for a great photo shoot. The 5 M's are a 5-step decision-making process you can use for every shoot. The first M is mood. Decide on the mood that you want to convey. Next is main. Select the main light that you'll use to photograph. Third is to modify. Modify the light to fit your vision. Fourth, measure the light to get the correct exposure. And fifth, move the light until it looks the way you want it to. Let's start with mood. What do you want? How do you want the image to look? Light, bright, and airy? Dark and somber or moody? Or maybe somewhere in between? How do you want that image to feel? Energetic? Silly? Or maybe more serious and soulful? What kind of kid are you photographing? Let their personality be your guide. If you have a high energy kid, you might want to go light, bright, and airy. If you have more of a quiet, thoughtful type of kid, you might want to do a more somber treatment in your lighting. What is most true to their personality? Selecting the lighting for your shoot is similar to writing music. To write a piece of music, you need to first establish the key that you are writing in. Lighting is no different. Establish the key of light you want to shoot in. High key, mid key, or low key. High key lighting uses predominantly light tones with a light or white background. I use high key lighting when I want to convey energy and movement and emphasize the shape and silhouette of my subject. A mid key lighting scheme uses mainly middle tones. It's more subtle and nuanced than either high key or low key. But be careful, it can go boring very quickly. You'll need to work your main light to keep some drama in your image. I like to use mid-key for my color work. Shot on gray, the entire scene appears monochromatic. Then the only color is the clothing or the child's skin and hair. It has a more painterly feel. A low-key lighting setup uses predominantly dark tones. Low-key lighting has a classic fine art feel, often lit from one side. It's high drama, perfect for highlighting texture and expression, giving your subject the look of emerging into the light. Low-key lighting is the most emotional of the 3 keys. Which key is most appealing to you? You may gravitate toward one again and again, and you'll find that that's the beginning of your style. Pay attention to it. The other 4 M's will show you how to achieve each of these looks. You've decided on the mood. Now it's time to select the lighting. The second M stands for main, or your main light. At the bare bones, you need a light, something to put it on, and a way to trigger the light from your camera. But what kind of lights should you buy? Well, there are 2 main types of studio strobe lights that most portrait photographers use. One is studio strobe power packs, the other are studio monolights. A strobe pack system is a power pack generator that provides power to 2 or more flash heads. The pro of the pack system is it gives you a lot of power. The heads are lighter weight and they're easier to get up and overhead on a boom if you're shooting that way. The downside to a power pack system is they tend to be more expensive than monolights. They do limit your light placement since all the heads are connected via these cords to your pack. You're limited where they can be placed, and the cords can create tripping hazards, which is definitely something to consider when you're photographing children. Also, when you adjust the power to one head, affects the power that's available to all the other heads. The pack does sit on the floor, and it can be a challenge when photographing children because they love to push these buttons. Those are just like magnets to kids. Also, if you have a failure in your pack, it takes down your entire system. Something to consider. Monolights, also commonly called monoblocks, are studio strobe lights that have the power source built into the light itself. So you can see here, you've got the power pack is built into the light, and here's the light part of it. Most portrait photographers use monolights. The pros for monolights is that they tend to be less expensive than a power pack and heads. They give you a wider range of adjustability. So you can adjust all the way up, all the way down, and you're adjusting each light independently. It's not affecting the other lights. The power source is built into the light itself, so your control is on top of a light stand where kids can't get to it. You don't have cords going from it to your power pack. You just have the normal AC cords, so you're more flexible on where you can place the light. Also, if one light goes down, you have a backup, you're good to go. You're not dead in the water if you lose one light. The downside of monolights is they tend to be less powerful than a pack and head system. Because the power source is in the light, it does make it heavier and more difficult to get up and over your subject if you like to shoot that way. Regardless of the type of lighting you choose, it is essential that you use a remote wireless trigger if you're going to be photographing children. You can trigger these lights with a cord from your camera to your lights, and I guarantee you'll use it one time, and if you have any lights left after photographing children tripping over those lights, you will immediately run out and buy a wireless trigger that goes from your camera to the lights. This type of trigger can either be a dedicated system that works with your specific brand of lights or pocket wizards. Just doesn't matter what kind you use, whatever works for your lights, it's a must-have to avoid tripping hazards. For my gear, I use the ProPhoto D1 Air monolight with a wireless remote, and I also have the Acute Pack system. I chose my studio strobe lights because with how I photograph kids, I need a quick recycle time on my lights. That means it doesn't take very long for the flash to recycle and be ready to shoot again. They also give me fast flash duration, which freezes action and gives you consistency from exposure to exposure, which saves me a lot of time in post-productions because my exposures are consistent. The smaller battery-operated speed lights don't give me a quick enough recycle time for the type of work that I do. Now, you may have a calmer approach, or you may photograph very calm children who sit still or recline, or if you are photographing primarily newborns who never move, you may not need a very quick recycle time. It's important to note that studio strobe lights aren't cheap, but it's such an important investment. After your camera, this is the most important investment that you will make because this is what you use to create your work. So choose wisely. You've selected your light source now, and as we talked about earlier, how do you want the light to look? As photographers, we're often more concerned about the quantity of light we're getting rather than the quality that we're getting. The quantity is just the beginning. With digital camera sensors being so sensitive, it's not that hard to get enough quantity of light. The most important thing is how do you want that light to look? What is the quality of that light? This image has enough light, but it's not good light. In my portrait work, I want the light to be soft and beautiful, but still dramatic and dimensional. The kind of light that caresses a child's skin, showing out their dimples and curly hair and highlighting their unique expressions. The way to change up the quality of light is to modify your light source, which brings us to the third M of the 5 M's, which is modify. Light modifiers like softbox, Octabanks, and beauty dishes are to your lights what your lenses are to your camera. More than anything else, modifiers control how your light looks and how it feels. Modifiers literally shape the light coming from your studio strobe. The most common modifier is some sort of light diffusion, like a softbox, umbrella, or Octabanks. My favorite diffuser that I like to use is a 60-inch Octabank. The Octabanks tend to be a little more shallow than a softbox, so if space is a consideration for you, it makes it nicer to be able to have a modifier that is more shallow rather than deeper. The Octabanks also give you a wide surface area, a large area of light to work with, which gives you a bigger margin of error with kids who tend to move around more than we'd like them to. I find that the best way, ironically, to determine whether light is good or not is to look at the shadows. Look at this bare bulb light that we're using right now. It gives you hard edge shadow transfer. So if you look on Phoebe's face right here, you can see that from light to dark is really, really harsh. It's really hard. It's like a shadow that you could take, if you had this in a picture, you could take a pair of scissors and cut against that shadow. Adding the Octabank to our bare bulb light has diffused the light across Phoebe's face, and you can see that the shadow now is really soft from light to dark. The shadow transfer is much softer. Now, you might look at her and think that this is a little bit too dark on this side, so another way to modify the light would be to bring in some kind of reflection. My favorite kind of reflection that I like to use is the V-flat, and we'll bring one of those in and show you how that works. Okay, we brought in a V-flat, and a V-flat is just a big piece of foam core bookended using gaffer tape right here to put the two ends together, and it can stand independently. And they're really big pieces of foam core, 4 foot by 8 foot usually. My favorite kind are the ones that have the foam core with the white on one side, black on the other, so that you can use it as reflective and then also subtractive on the other side. So it works out really great that way. So back to Phoebe, let's look at her. I'm standing here blocking the reflection from this V-flat into her face with my black shirt. So you can see that the shadow on the side of her face is still pretty dark. If I move out of the way and bring this in, you can see how on her face that light, it just brings in a little bit of light, but I don't like it to be too much because I still want the light to be dramatic on her face. So we went from a bare bulb to diffused with our Octabank, then brought in a little bit of reflector on this side. And this is a really great starting place for photographing a single child because it's kind of creating a fort of light. So you've got your big Octabank over here, you've got your V-flat over here, and they feel kind of contained in this one little space. Another way to modify light is to concentrate the light. And by concentrate, what I mean is you're telling the light exactly where to go. Keeps the light off your background, allowing your background to go darker. It keeps the light off of other areas as well. Like maybe we don't want the legs and feet of a child to show as much as we want their face to show. So we want the light to be concentrated in a certain area. Now, this is how we concentrate the light. We're gonna use this honeycomb, the soft honeycomb grid on our Octabank. And what that will do is it's gonna do a couple of things. One of the things it's gonna do is it's gonna cut the light by about 1 stop. So you'll need to make an adjustment to your exposure. And the other thing that it's going to do is really direct the light. So there's less margin for error than there is with a big, huge softbox like you see now. Now why, you might ask yourself, why is it that you would want to put something that's normally with grid spots, you're using them on very small lights to really concentrate small beams of light? Why would you use almost a hard light type of modifier on a big, huge softbox or an Octabank for that matter? The reason why you would do that is because you still want the light to be big and soft, but you want it to be concentrated in a certain area. So let's go ahead and put this honeycomb on our light and see how we can work with concentrating it. Okay, now we have the honeycomb grid on our Octabank, and you can see that it's made the lighting a lot more dramatic on her, but our shadows are still soft, which is great. You can see that it's concentrated the light right in this area. Now we've got the light right about here on her, on Phoebe, and you can see that her feet fall into shadow. If we put that light up a little bit, Jeff, can you raise that light just a little bit? You can see how her knee just starts to go darker and darker. Now, it's a little too dark on this side for her, so I'm going to bring in the V-flat a little bit closer to give us some reflection on this side. Okay, so you can see bringing the V-flat reflector closer in opens up the shadows a little bit on this side. It's not too dark for her. So in modifying your light, there are obviously a lot of ways to do that. Just focus, rather than getting enough light, focus on the quality of the light versus the quantity. Diffusing the light using either an Octabank, a softbox, or whatever you like to use, Once you get that light in there and it's not enough and you need to adjust it a little bit to one side, using a V-flat or some other kind of form of reflection to reflect the light back in on the shadow side. Using concentrators like a honeycomb grid on your light source to concentrate the light. Call attention to the areas that you want to call attention to and to block light off from the areas that you don't want light to be on. The fourth M is to measure the light to determine the correct exposure. Studio lighting makes determining your exposure settings much easier than shooting on location. For your down and dirty exposure settings, I want you to consider 5 variables. The first 3 you already know about: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. The next 2 are new when you factor in studio lighting. Lighting power, whether your power is high or low, bright or dark, and the light distance to your subject. If the light's closer to your subject, it's going to be brighter. Further away, it's going to be darker. Okay, first of all, just dial in the settings that are not going to change. First of all, you're going to start with the ISO. Set it at your lowest native setting. With most cameras, that's ISO 100. Some, it might be 200. Your strobes produce plenty of light, so you can set your ISO to the lowest native setting to get the best image quality. Secondly, set your shutter speed at your camera's sync speed. Another benefit of shooting in studio is that because we're shooting with flash and flash freezes movement, you don't have to worry about changing your shutter speed. You can just set it and forget it. If you don't know what your camera's sync speed is, consult your camera manual. It's usually either 1/125th of a second, 1/200th, or maybe even 1/250th of a second. Figure it out, look at your manual. The sync speed is very important because if you set the shutter speed faster than the camera's sync speed, you're going to end up with half of your image being black because the shutter opened and closed faster than the light could flash. On my camera, the sync speed is 1/250th of a second if I'm shooting with dedicated Nikon flashes. But I noticed that when I was shooting with my ProPhoto Studio strobes, I noticed some ghosting at 1/250th, so I use 1/200th to be safe. So our recap: ISO at 100 or your lowest native, shutter speed at sync speed 1/200th of a second. So those 2 are locked down, they are not going to change. The third variable is your light power. Just start somewhere. I like to just start with my light power to half power. Many of you are used to shooting with wide open apertures, so you may want to start with your light at its lowest setting all the way down. It's up to you. You can start at half or at its lowest. Take a shot and evaluate. Look at the back of your camera and see how it looks. If it's too dark, you just open up your aperture or power your light up. If it's way too bright, close down your aperture or power down your light if you're wanting to keep your aperture wide. Next, you're going to set your aperture or f-stop according to how much of the image you want to be in focus. Do you see how locking down your ISO and shutter speed means you don't have to think about them at all? Then it's just a matter of setting your aperture, the aperture that you like for the look you want, and adjusting your light power and distance to get the correct exposure. The inevitable question is, do you need a flash meter? You can use a flash meter to measure your light, or you can also use the LCD on the back of your digital camera. I found that it's really helpful when you're first starting out to set your LCD on the back of your camera to blinking highlights. What this does is if you blow out your highlights and there's no information, it blinks so you can tell if you're losing information. Meters make multiple light setups or more complicated scenarios much quicker and easier to manage because you know exactly the output that each light is putting out. I really like having a flash meter and using it in those types of situations. For a single lighting setup, it's really not necessary. The fifth M of the 5 M's of lighting is to move your light. You already know more about this than you think you do. If you've been shooting in natural light, you're used to moving your subject, trying to figure out where the best place to put them and the best light there is to get. Somehow when we make the switch to studio lighting and have a light that we can put anywhere we want, we forget the lessons that our natural light training taught us. So this lesson is all about proximity and where you decide to move that light in relation to the child that you're photographing. This is important because where you move the light will affect the look of your photo more than any other M we've talked about so far. A common beginner mistake is to just stick a light on the set, point it at your subject, and leave it there. It's almost never the right place, so don't be afraid to move it. Moving the light even a tiny bit can make a huge difference in how good or bad the lighting on your subject will be. Moving the light changes the size of your light source in relation to your subject. This is another way to control the quality of the light that you're using. If you notice the light is just not looking good, it's usually because the light is too far away from your subject. That's because bigger equals a softer quality of light, smaller means a harder light. So how do you make the light big? You make the light big by getting it closer to your subject, closer in relation and big in relation to the child that you're photographing. There's two ways to get your light to be big. One is to actually have a big, huge light modifier. The other is to actually get the light closer to your subject so the light is closer in relation. So Jeff is going to bring the light in, and I want you, as he's bringing it in, I want you to watch the light on Daphne's face, and you'll see how it gets softer and better as the light comes in closer. Okay, so you can see how as that light came in closer and closer and closer, it just started to wrap around and get really, really soft. The further away it is, the harder the light will be. The closer it is, the softer. It seems counterintuitive, but that's the way it works. Now, if space is a consideration for you and you don't have room for a big 60-inch Octabank, a small light source can be big if it's close enough to the subject, because the closer you get, the bigger the light source becomes. The good news is kids are small, so even a smaller light modifier is bigger in relationship to a small child. The benefits of a larger light modifier is that you can back it out, and Jeff, pull that back just a little bit. You can pull this out, okay, that's good, and still have the light be nice, because the modifier is large. If we had done that with a smaller light modifier, it would have gotten hard and harsh much quicker. The nice thing about a big light modifier as well is it gives room for kids to move around. You can see that this is a larger space of good light. I like to work with the light as close as possible, really, really close. So Jeff, let's bring that back in a little. I like the light to be as close as possible to my subject because I want that gorgeous wrapping light on them. One thing that's important to remember is if your light is too bright when it's in this close, exposure-wise, don't back it off. There are other ways to get the correct exposure. You can reduce your flash power. You can close down your aperture. If you close down your aperture and reduce the power all that you can, and the light is still too bright, add another diffusion baffle in the front of this Octabank. Most of them come with two, or you can add some other diffusion in front of that, but keep that light in close. When you're considering how close or far the light should be from your subject, use this rule of thumb. You want to keep your light closer than a distance of 2 times the width of the modifier that you're using. So we have a 60-inch Octabank here. That means I don't want to get more than 120 inches away from my subject with this Octabank. And really, I want to even be closer than that. If you get further than the 120, the light will start to become harsh and unflattering. I find that I really like to work my subjects on the back end of whatever light modifier I'm working on. I like to feather that light across them, almost lighting the area in front of my subject rather than lighting them. And you can see Phoebe is standing just on the back edge of that light. The light is just, back up just a little bit. Yeah, a little bit more right there, little teeny bit. Yeah, so it's just where a window would be, and that light is just feathering across, filling in this side of her face. You can see the gorgeous texture in her skin, her pretty eyelashes, her pretty hair, and all the detail in her clothing. It's just a really nice place to start. So to recap our decision-making process, the 5 M's, you first want to decide on the mood that you want to convey, select the main light that you'll be using, choose then how you'll modify that light, whether you'll diffuse it or reflect it, measure the light for the correct exposure, and then move that light or the kid until you can achieve the look that you want. Purchasing lights in a kit will definitely save you money, but nowhere is it written that you have to use all the lights every time you shoot. When you're not liking the light on your subject, it can be tempting to just set up more lights. Don't do it. Start with a single light source and then add in reflectors as fill as needed. Only if and when you've explored the limits of that single source should you try to add in more lights. More lights can create weird cross shadows and make lighting more confusing for you because it's difficult to isolate the problems when you're working with so many variables. Keep it simple, especially when you're new to studio lighting. You'll learn faster and be able to see what you're actually doing. Like any new skill, learning to photograph in the studio is a process of trial and error. When you first start working with studio lighting, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But you've probably been doing photography long enough to know that that's just part of the gig. Here are several common lighting problems that are easy to fix with just a few minor adjustments. When you begin shooting in a studio using lights and a background, you may not know exactly where you should place your subject in that environment. A really common mistake is to position your subject too close to the background. With your subject this close to the background, your light can't help but cast a distracting shadow behind the kid you're photographing, like you can see here with that Dash is making on our background. The other problem with having your subject this close to your background is that your light is too close to the background. With the light this close, it's tough to keep the light off the background, and it usually makes one side of the background lighter than the other. So you can see it kind of makes a distracting gradient from one side to the other. That can be really annoying if you're trying to get a uniform tone back there, but when you have your light that close, it's almost impossible to make that happen. A simple fix is just to move your subject and your lights forward and away from the background. Instead of 3 to 4 feet from our seamless like we have Dash right now, we're going to move Dash about 6 to 8 feet off of our background. So let's go ahead and move that light forward. So Dash, you come forward with the light. We're going to go slow, slow, slow. Keep coming a little bit more. Okay, so right about there. Yep. And then we're going to pull this back just a little. Get him positioned right where we want him to be. And then you can see there's no distracting shadow from Dash on the background, and we have a uniform tone on our background. It's so much easier to control the amount of light hitting the background without having to introduce other light modifiers when you have your kid and your light further away from your background. This is also actually a good tip for any background you're shooting on, whether you're on location or in studio. We've all stood our subjects up against that cool brick wall, only to realize it's so busy and so in focus that it's detracting from our subject. Pull the kid forward and let that background fall out of focus. Pull the kid forward, let the light fall off. You want the background to be secondary to your subject, and you can do this by simply putting more distance between your background and your subject. We talked about moving the light closer or further away from our subjects, but how high or low should you position the light in relation to the child you're photographing? A common mistake is to position the light too low. Kids are little people, but even so, you want to make sure you don't position that light too low in relation to your subject's face, because this creates unflattering shadows that just don't look right, as we see here on Dash's face. The light is just too low. He's cute, but it's just too low. There's a reason they call this monster lighting. If you're working your light from the side, keep the center of your light slightly above your subject's eye level, like we have our Octabank here. The center of this light is slightly above Dash's eye level. That gives you the best results because this position gives us those sparkly little catch lights that add life to our subject's eyes, as you can see in his eyes right here. You've got those nice little catch lights. A good rule of thumb for catch lights is to have them positioned in either the 10 o'clock or the 2 o'clock position in your subject's eyes. It's kind of like safe driving, 10 and 2. Easy way to remember it. That makes it easy to determine how high to place your light. If you're going to 11, 12 o'clock, it's probably too high, but 10 and 2 on either side is just right. In my opinion, the worst mistake you can make in lighting is to let all of this lighting stuff intimidate you and just settle for safe, boring lighting. What happens is that you finally get an image that turns out, and then you're afraid to venture beyond that point. You want to play it safe because you know you can make that work. But before you know it, your portraits are going to start to resemble those sad, boring department store photos rather than the dynamic and interesting photos that you really want to make. So the best way to prevent safe, boring lighting is to calm down. It's normal when you're setting up a lighting scheme for it not to work right away. If the lighting is uneven or too contrasty, this is actually a good sign. It means that you're almost there. You're just a few inches away from great light. So be patient with yourself. Experiment a little by using just incremental movements. And what I mean by incremental is an inch here or there to get the light on your subject just right. More often than not, it's not moving your light a foot or two. It's a matter of centimeters. That makes the difference between a disaster and great light. So calm yourself down, calm your inner critic, we all have him, and finesse that light. Work it, work it, work it until it looks just exactly like you want it to. Starting out with one light keeps things simple. It makes it easy to see the light, and I love how it looks. It feels natural and elemental, more organic, and less produced and artificial. It also lets you focus on the most important thing, and that's the kid. You may never want to shoot with more than one light. Keep it simple, one light, one background. Today we're going to show you some simple lighting setups that will allow you to focus on the kid and not your gear. The most important thing that I want to strive for is to get the lighting squared away ASAP so I can connect with and interact with the child that I'm photographing. During the shoot, I'm still adjusting the light here and there, but I try to never lose connection with the child I'm photographing. For those who worry about not being able to be creative in a studio, here are 4 ways to light your subject that will give you a very different feel. Feathering the light, Rembrandtish, evenly lit groups, and the up and over. These are basic setups that you can alter to your taste. They'll get you in the ballpark of good light, and then you can finesse it from there to your taste. What you like and what I like might be very different things. But this is a function of developing your style. Try different things and see what you like best. There's no one right answer. Another favorite technique using just one light is to feather the light across your subject. Feathering the light requires that you have correct placement of your light in relation to your subject. And the easiest way to do this is to place your subject just a tiny bit behind the light. Like we have Eliana here. She's just behind the light, but it's not exactly where I want her to be. So I will have her just inch slightly forward, go a little step at a time, little bit, right there. She's just on the back side of this light, and you can see how gorgeous the light looks on her face. Working off the back edge of the light feathers the light across your subject and results in gorgeous, soft, dimensional light. Photography is a two-dimensional medium, whether it's on the screen or in a print. But how do you make it look three-dimensional? Well, how to make an image look three-dimensional was invented by painters a long time ago using light and shadow. If you've been into photography for more than 5 minutes, you've heard of Rembrandt light. And this is the setup that we have with Georgia here today. Georgia is standing on the back side of our Octabank, and you can see right here that the light is coming across, feathering across her face, making this little upside down triangle on this side of her face. That's Rembrandt light. Our light source is at a 45-degree angle to our subject, creating this little upside down triangle on this side of her face. I call this Rembrandt-ish because I like to start here, but then modify it a little bit to suit what I want to do. We've placed a grid, a honeycomb grid on our Octabank to control the spill of light because I want to just see this gorgeous face, and then I want her hands and everything below to just fall into shadow so that you're really just focusing right here in this area on this beautiful little girl. All of the texture in her clothing and her jewelry, but mainly the face, the cheeks, and these gorgeous eyelashes. A lot of times I actually prefer almost a 90-degree angle to my subject, so I can move her up a little bit. Let's move you up a little. And that gets even a little bit more dramatic. And then if it gets a little too dark on this side, we can always bring in a V-flat on this side and give a little bit of fill light. But for this kind of a picture where we've got her with her favorite animal, her favorite jewelry, her gorgeous glasses, I want to almost have a fine art, really emotional look to the light. And so we'll bring her right back, and she'll be right back to the edge of that light and have this gorgeous light on her for kind of a fine art, more emotional, textured, low-key picture. So getting even light on groups can be a challenge because you have one child that's really close to the light and another child that's really far away from the light if you just line them up in a straight line. There's two ways that you can work with this. One is to actually move the light. So we're going to angle the light, the center of this light, right towards Avon. And you can see, let's back you guys up just a little bit. Back up a little bit, back up a little bit, back up a little bit. Okay, right here, and then Avon right there. When we angle the light toward the farthest kid, then what happens is the side of the bank, the less direct, less specular part, is actually just washing over and feathering, and the brightest part is on the farthest kid. So you get nice, even light all the way across. That's if you want to line them up. If you don't want to line them up, another way to get the even light, let's go ahead and straighten that light back up, Jeff. Yeah, perfect. So we have the light straight up and down. We're slightly on the back side. Is to actually angle the kids, or if you have a piece of furniture here, you would angle the kids toward the light. Okay, so Avon, let's move you a little bit forward. And Tobin, you're going to move an angle a little bit forward, so you can just hold on to his hand right there. Will you hold on to Tobin's hand? Perfect. And then Georgia, you're going to lean back like this. And Eliana, you're going to lean, you can just lean right into Georgia. Yep, like that. So that's not the perfect pose, but you get the idea that if we angle the kids toward the light, we're doing the same thing that we did when we angled the light right towards Tobin. Either way, you get more even light. Okay, let's bring the B flat in a little bit and forward. Just angle it kind of more. Yeah. There we go. You're doing just great, Avon, right where you are. Okay, let's take the light. We're going to pull the light toward me, and then we're going to kind of angle it back toward Avon, the center of the light back toward Avon. You're doing great. You're doing great. All right, so George, I love how you're sitting. Eliana, how do you want to stand? Can you put your hands on your hips? Like yeah, that's kind of cute. I like that. Yeah. Okay, and then Tobin, take this back arm and put it on George's shoulder. The back arm. Yep. Just kind of hang on like that. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, and then can you hold your hand out? Avon, can you hold Tobin's hand? Can you hold onto his hand? Yeah? Okay. Okay, now everybody's gonna be a little bit of a tough guy. So Avon, let go of Tobin's hand. Yep. Tobin, stay where you were. Come lean. Yeah. Tobin, turn your tummy a little more toward me. Yep. Not a little bit. Yeah. And then take your arm and just drop it over George's shoulder. The back arm. Yeah. So you're just kind of like hanging out, just like, what's up? You guys look good. Okay, yeah, I love that, Eliana. That's so cute. Now, kind of be a little bit sassy, kind of like you're a little bit of a brat. Yeah, Georgia is working it. Okay, and now, are you ready? Are you ready, Avon? Because I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, and I want you to jump as high as you can. Okay, 1, 2, 3, jump really high. Woo! Oh my gosh. You're gonna do it again? 1, 2, 3. Woo! Oh my goodness, that was amazing. Okay, now hold really still. Can you put your thumbs in your pockets? Put your thumbs in your pockets. On your pockets on your jeans, right down here. Yeah, that's good. Now turn your tummy a little bit this way, Mr. Avon. Yeah, just a little bit. Now look back at me. Yeah, just like that. Okay, everybody, don't be smiling at me. Yeah. Tobin, take your face a little bit more this way, a little bit more this way. Yeah, oh yeah. Eliana, I love what you're doing with your feet. It's so cute. Okay, look right here. Eliana, can you hug onto Tobin a little bit? Give him a little hug, like lean close to his arm with your head. Yeah, like that. And then turn your face a little bit this way, Miss Eliana. Look right here at me. Lean on your cousin. Okay, Georgia, head up this way just a little bit. Yeah, gotta see that pretty face. Oh my gosh, amazing. Do you guys want to see something? Look at you. Oh my goodness. Look how good you guys look. But look how tall Tobin is. He's like way bigger than everybody. Yeah. What the heck, Tobin? Yeah. Okay, so we put the light up and over, and you can see that it's circular, even though it's an octagon in nature. So what we did with you guys is we're putting them on the back side of this light so you can see that they're actually kind of in a semicircle. So Georgia, you come forward just a little bit, and Eliana, you come forward just a little bit. Avon, I like you right there. Can you look right here? Okay, if you look right at that camera, see that square right there? Look right there, and you can see on their faces, look at how gorgeous that light is all the way around. Now, we can play music, they can move around, they can dance, and they have a nice big area of light where they still are gonna have great light. When you first try this, you're gonna notice if you get them too far back, so can you take a step back a little bit right there? Like look right at Eliana's face, back, 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 and then watch as she comes forward, look right at that camera. See how beautiful, it immediately, it's like just a matter of inches, it gets great. So from not so great to great, it's amazing. Like look at the light on this kid's face, gorgeous. So when you pose a group like this and you want to get even lighting with the up and over, you kind of want them a little bit in a semicircle. Come a little bit more forward, Georgia, yeah, just like that. See, and they just look amazing. Okay, Miss Georgia, I want you around this side by Eliana. I want you to hold Eliana's hand, and I want you to do your sassy. Like work that, oh yeah. You've got this down, girl. I love it. Love that attitude. It's so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, 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 like that. Yeah, and then get close to your cousin. Get back close to your cousin. Oh, that's really nice. Okay, everybody look right here. Okay, Georgia, head up. Don't get too turny. Yeah, I love that. A little bit more this way, a little bit more. Yeah, that's really nice. Okay, all right, everybody look right here. Okay, now you can be a little bit, I don't want you to be smiley, but you can be nice kids. So show me how nice kids, what do nice kids look like? Do nice kids eat boogers? So what about, show me like a surprise face, like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that. Hold hands with Avon. Yep. And turn your tummy a little bit that way, Georgia. Yeah, love that. Oh yeah, love that. Hey, where's Avon? Can you give Georgia a little hug? Can you squeeze in there and give her some love? Just squeeze in close to her. Okay, look right here. Everybody look right here. Hey! Hey! Okay, last one. So for this one, I want everybody to kind of like lean in. So Tobin, you're gonna get close into, yep, arm around your friend. Okay, so Avon, can you get in close, get in and hug Georgia around her tummy. Hug Georgia around her tummy. So get him in, pull him next to you, Georgia. Pull him in. Yep, oh, I love that. Okay, close, heads close together. Okay, Avon, look right here. And I want you to think about how much you love your cousins. Georgia, I want your head to stay straight up. Avon, lean in. Everybody lean in. Heads close together. Lean in. Love each other. Love. Everybody look at Tobin. Ah! Everybody look at me. Hey! Awesome! We're going to set up a white seamless on a white seamless. It's on a cardboard core. And so rather than having to have one whole crossbar between to go inside of this core, we're going to set this up using 2 C-stands with arms. This is a really easy and very sturdy way to set up a white seamless. So Jeff, you go ahead and go back this way. Let's set that up. So we just put it on one side that way. Stick this arm in. And then you can see it's really easy. You don't have to have a crossbar that goes all the way across. You can use 2 C-stands with the arms set to an angle, and then you're gonna just pull it down like this. Now, the other thing that you need to remember when you're working with seamless is that once you start pulling this paper down, it can start unrolling really, really quickly, and you can get a nasty paper cut with it. So you need to be careful of that. And normally what we would do is we would run this up to the ceiling like we have the seamless back behind us. Once you get it to the height you want and you roll it out to the length you want to make sure that you clamp it, because guaranteed the first kid that walks in, they're going to run back there and try to run up it, and the whole thing is going to unroll and ruin your seamless. One more great thing about using the C-stands as your background stand is you usually already have those in your studio, so then you don't have to pay for a dedicated background stand. When you're not using these to put your seamless up, you can use them for your lights. So that's a good little money-saving tip. The other thing that you want to make sure of is that you sandbag this background stand just like you do your lights, so that everything is battened down the hatches before the kids come in. Let's talk about our lighting setup. To light our background, we are using 2 monolights fitted with Pro Photo beauty dishes. Because I don't have a very wide shooting space here, the beauty dishes are more compact than umbrellas. You could also use strip banks, which are long, skinny soft boxes, or you could use umbrellas if you have a little bit more width in the space that you're shooting in. You'll set the backlights to 1.5 stops brighter than your main light. Let me say that again. You're setting your backlights to 1.5 stops brighter than your main light. You'll place the background lights on either side of the background and angle them slightly past center. You may want to set the LCD on your camera to the blinking highlight setting. That way, as you're shooting, as you're testing the lights on their background, you can see when that white starts to blow out, and you'll see almost a silhouette around your subject. It'll start blinking, and that lets you know that you have it right, that you have no detail in your background. Or you could look at your histogram on the back of your camera. For when the info on that right side of your histogram, watch for when those highlights start to clip. And that's when you know you have a featureless white background. So my main light is set just like all the other shots that we've done today. It's either on the side or up and over. I'm just lighting my subject just like I do whether I'm lighting my background or not. Then I'm adding in the background lights to make it go white and featureless. When your lighting is done right on your white seamless background, you'll have nice dimensional light on your subject and your background is completely white. Now there are 2 common problems when lighting a white seamless. Number 1 is an overexposed background. If you set the power on your background lights too high, usually 2 or more stops higher than your main light, the light reflects off your white background, blasts forward, flaring around your subject and into your lens. This degrades your image with a loss of contrast. The second common problem is an underexposed background. If you set your background lights to the same exposure as your main light, you'll end up with a not quite white background. That's fine if you meant it to be that way, but if you want a completely white background, the background lights need to be 1.5 stops brighter than your main light. Now we're going to take our white seamless background from white to gray, simply by turning off the background lights. Your main light exposure is already set, so you change your background without even changing your exposure, simply by turning off those background lights. This is a quick way to vary your look from light and bright to more somber and moody. Lower that top, that down even more. I want it like almost on top of his head. Not totally, but almost. Yeah, and then, okay, so Tobin, that back shoulder, I want you to just bring it forward a little so she has something to lean on. Yeah, you look so big and strong right there. I love that. Okay, stay right there. You look great. Don't move. Okay, now we're gonna flip off black lights. Just stay, just breathe. Statue. I love that. Got it. Oh, you guys are awesome. Okay, that was perfect. The last thing we gotta do is we need to put this black V flap down underneath them. Okay, so guys, go right where you were before, okay? Turn your back to him. Yeah, yes, I love that. So you're protecting her. Some bad guys are trying to get her. Put your chin on her head. And then, Georgia, chip your chin up. And just like love on him a little. Yeah. Oh my gosh, forget about it. Oh! Okay, you ready to come live with me, okay? Is that okay? My philosophy about posing and props is simple. I keep the posing natural and the props personal. I like to involve the kids in the clothing and prop selection, and take into consideration the items that are most important to them. The parents may have a particular vision, but I really am on the kids' side. I don't want them to walk by a portrait I created years later and say, I hate that turtleneck, or what was my mom thinking with that stupid sailor suit? In these next lessons, we'll take a look at simple posing that follows their natural gestures and props that are meaningful to the kids. When you're photographing very young children, like toddlers for example, it can be hard just to keep them in the light. I found that keeping them up off the floor for as long as possible will give you a better chance at getting your shot. One of the ways that I do that is using heavy stools like these upholstered cubes that are close to the floor but not super easy for kids to get down off of. And they're also too heavy for them to pick up and move around. You'll notice that toddlers love to pick up chairs and carry them around, thus getting them out of the light. On that note, you want to also make sure that any lights that you have in the studio are sandbagged and that all your cords are taped down. When you have little ones running around, they are tripping hazards, and you would hate to have a child pull a light over on top of themselves. Another way to keep the kids off the floor is to use a table. We've got kind of a high table here that we're going to use with Alexandros in a minute. But the main thing that you have to be careful with when you're using tables, obviously, is that safety comes first. So make sure that you have a spotter, either an assistant or one of the parents, to help keep the kid from falling off of the table. But the high table will keep them off the floor. It keeps them a little bit wary, and they will stay looking at you and giving you the looks that you want up on the table. Also, sometimes very young toddlers can be shy and clingy when they first arrive. It's okay to have a parent join them on the set until they warm up and they get comfortable. Sometimes those are some of your very best shots. I'm gonna have you scoot a teeny bit this way because he's gonna stand. I want him right on that stool, yeah. And can you like straddle that like a horse so you're facing him? Very nice, perfect. Oh. Hey, this is no. You can't. Oh, is that yummy? Oh my goodness, look at, he's already warmed up and ready to go. What are you eating? So Dad, just hang there so that he feels good. Oh, where are you going? Where are you going? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What is it? What is it? Uh-oh. Hey. Uh-oh. Do you like fish crackers? Is Daddy taking your crackers? You gonna stand up tall? Oh, so big. You wanna, okay, that's okay. You can love that. I love that, love that, love that. That's my daddy. My daddy. No, my daddy! Okay, so we're gonna bring in a higher table. We're gonna raise the light accordingly. I left him on your shoulder. That's super cute. Flip him on the other side, Oscar. Oh! Don't, that's my daddy. That's my daddy. Are you hugging my daddy? Don't you hug my daddy. So just make him feel comfy. You're totally fine just hanging on to him. Jeff's gonna be on this other side. Jeff has 2 kids and he's a war veteran, so we're good. What? Are you eating my crackers? I'm gonna have them. Yeah. Okay, Susan, will you go trade places with Oscar real quick because I need him over here. Love it. Love what he's doing. Okay, Oscar, come over here by me. Okay. Daddy. Daddy. Oh, yes, love that. Where's Dad? Uh-oh. Daddy. Should we get Daddy? Tickle. Tickle. You're gonna
help
get
me, help me, Nathaniel, help me. Help me.
Tickle, 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 tickle.
Come on.
Tickle, 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 tickle. Look at that kid. Oh my gosh, what a gorgeous kid. Okay, we got him. When it comes to posing kids, it really should be natural. I like to start by looking at what they naturally do and how they naturally sit and just refine from there. Georgia, will you have a little seat right over here by me? Let's see. So I'll just watch how she normally will sit up there, how she's placing her hands, what she's doing with her feet, and just kind of let her settle in. She's a natural. You want things to be natural, but it's good to have a few easy poses in your pockets in case kids just are locked up and don't know what it is that they want to do. So Georgia, are you ready? I'm going to tell you a few poses to go through and you'll just do them for me, right? Okay. All right, first we're gonna try crisscross applesauce. Can you do that? Can you sit crisscross applesauce up on there? So scooch back a little so you don't fall over. Crisscross applesauce, that's just perfect. Rather than saying cross your legs, because kids don't know that, they'll do like this, they don't know cross your legs or cross your knees. If you say crisscross applesauce, almost every kid knows what that means. Okay, can you put your elbows on your knees for me? Love that, and you can look right over there. Oh, see, immediately, well, this kid is a natural, she's amazing. So just putting their elbows on their knees leans them forward, it brings their chin forward, their gorgeous face into the light. That's a really good one to do. Another one that I like to do is perched versus sitting. So she's sitting all the way back, but if I want her just to perch, come forward just a little bit. Perch, 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 yep, right on the edge, a little bit more forward, come out this way. Yep, and just put your toes on the ground, yep. So this way she's not all the way back and hunched, she's kind of leaned forward and perched. This is also really good if you have an armchair or a chair where it's really a deep chair. You don't want them sitting back and leaning and hunched back into the chair because usually you see the bottoms of their feet or the bottoms of their shoes. Whereas if they're forward on the chair and just kind of perched, it's a better look. Okay, go ahead and stand up for me, Georgia. Okay, now, when you have a kid that's standing, what do they want to do with their hands? There's a couple of things. Can you fold your arms for me? Like that, and kind of be sassy? Yeah, love that. Okay, and you can kind of like put your hip out to one side. Oh yeah, love that, okay? Another one is put your thumbs in your pockets. Can you put your thumbs in your pockets? You don't have jeans on, but oh, there you go, you've got pockets right there. So if she was wearing jeans, rather than putting their whole hands in their pockets, they can just put their thumbs in their pockets, and then that way it doesn't look like a stump. It's just kind of their thumbs in their pockets, and it's a little bit more cool. You like that? Do you feel like you're a model? Another thing that you can do with their hands is to ask them to hold your thumbs. Take your thumb, take like this, and hold on to your one little finger, and then just hold it down like this. They might try to hold their hands and grip them where it doesn't look really great, but if you just have them hold on to one finger, then look how cute and dainty that looks with her. The thing to remember when you're posing is that you want incremental, teeny tiny movements. Sometimes this is difficult with kids. You'll say, look over here, and then they'll really flip their head around or they'll run over to the side. And so what I tell them is I say, just do teeny tiny movements, just a little bit, teeny tiny, itty bitty, a teeny tiny small step, or it's just, they're used to playing games like Simon Says, a very teeny tiny half step. That kind of thing, those kind of directions makes it easier to get natural poses. And natural poses make your images real and much more compelling. Okay, so I'm gonna do poses and you're gonna do the exact same thing I do, okay? So you're gonna just kind of be silly, okay? So scooch it to where you're turned a little more toward the left. Yeah, love that. Okay, are you ready? Okay, hands on the hips, Wonder Woman. Dun, 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 and be strong. Give it like, yeah. Okay. Be a fancy lady. Darling. Okay, do this. Other side. Shake your booty. Shake your booty. And then the last one is, what's up? And then peace out. Now what are you gonna do? Jump really high. Woo! Jump! Yeah! And then big blow kiss. Mwah! But when you're gonna blow the kiss, blow it right here. Mwah! And then blow it right here. Mwah! And then now bow. Wait, for a big bow like this. And we're done. Woo! Give careful thought to where you're standing, sitting, or lying down for that matter when you're photographing a child. Where you stand affects your angle of view and how your camera interprets your subject, making the child appear confident and important, or submissive and demure. Like every decision you make during a shoot, choose your camera angle with intention. We're going to take a look at 4 specific camera angles: the worm's eye view, the neutral camera angle, high camera angle, and the bird's eye view. One of my favorite angles when shooting kids is the worm's eye view. It's very low, and I love it. It's achieved by laying on the floor or getting the kid up on something like a table or a platform. The reason I love it so much is because it gives the viewer of being in the kid's world. It gives them respect and makes them look true to life, how they look to themselves. It also has a more editorial feel. Most fashion and editorial shoots you'll notice in magazines are shot from a very low camera angle. It captures the child's natural stance, and they don't have to look up at you. They can look down at you. And it exaggerates the action, any action that you have them do, like if they're jumping or karate chopping, it just makes that action, makes their jumps look higher and their action look bigger. The neutral camera angle is achieved by having your lens waist height to the child that you're photographing. This is a safe choice because it makes sure that you don't have any distortion top and bottom. It's good for full length shots and mostly used in catalog work to show an accurate representation of clothing or whatever the child's holding. Because kids are so small, to get a high camera angle, it's pretty easy. You just stand up and shoot down, unless you're really short. A high camera angle is good for headshots if you want children looking up at you to create a more wide-eyed, innocent, or submissive look. The bird's eye view is a very exaggerated look. You're almost up and overhead of the child. It gives you an exaggerated big head, little feet look, especially if you're using a wide-angle lens. You can really get that really exaggerated look. It's kind of fun to use for a more wacky, cartoon-like look. The differences between the angles may seem subtle, but changing it up will not only alter your vision, it will add dimension and variety to your work. Somehow a child's own toy or object of affection makes for much better props than the manufactured stuff that's so common to children's portraiture. I'm always on the lookout for interesting ways to use the toys that kids bring with them to the studio. I don't like props for props' sake. They're cute, but they tend to be trendy and they date very quickly. I want the props to tell a story about the kid I'm photographing. You may find that the very best props belong to your client from the kid's personal stash. The images will have more meaning for the family and will be more personal and more interesting. They'll also have more value as time goes on. Some of the items that have worked really well for me are the radio blankie, the pacifier. Legos are always a good choice. A favorite toy, a favorite doll or stuffed animal, dress-up clothes, or favorite books. I encourage my clients to bring a favorite lovey or stuffed animal. The rattier, the better. Think Velveteen Rabbit rather than just purchased. Don't wash in advance. I also encourage parents to let the kids pick an item or two because they might pick something that the parents didn't even think of, and very often those end up being some of the best images. Adding a personal item will make the images unique and meaningful for your client. Much like the director on a movie set, you are in charge of your photo shoot. Your clients expect you to take charge. They want you to take charge. You set the tone for the entire shoot. Keeping kids interested and entertained, it's kind of like a performance. You're exhausted at the end, but the most important thing is you got good photos on the card. You have to bob and weave, keep moving, don't let the energy flag. You want to take responsibility for the entire shoot, beginning to end. How you work your shoot is an extension of your personality and your style. You may be calm and zen and look for gorgeous, haunting expressions from the children that you photograph. Or you might be high energy and crazy and get kids cracking up or doing crazy things. The combination of lights, kids, and you are endless. Your images show the combination of all three of these factors. How I direct a shoot is to start by watching for the gestures or expressions that are natural and unique to each child. What I'm really looking for is what's called prompted reality. As photographer Gregory Heisler puts it, a completely natural moment in a totally set up situation. This entire studio is a set-up situation. The lights are fake, the background's fake, everything's fake. We're not doing photojournalism here, or are we? My best advice for good expression is to give the kids something to do or something to react to. So the setting might be manufactured and fake, but the reaction and the expressions are real. The better your interaction with these kids, the better expressions you'll get. Very often, I'm directing these children for the moment after. I don't necessarily want them to do what I ask them to do. I just want to see how they react to what I ask them to do. So I might practice subtle sabotage. Like provocative statements for a little child would be, hey, what does a cow say? Oh, wait, I know, a cow says meow. You would be amazed at what a crack up that gets from the toddler set. You also might want to ask a 9-year-old, so how's your girlfriend these days? Or anything that will just get them to make a different expression, that will get them out of themselves and not be posy and cheesy. Another bit of advice when you're directing your shoot is to start with the calm, more formal shots first. When the kids are still unsure of you, they don't really know you, they're still a little bit reserved, because that's when you're going to get those quiet, big-eyed shots. They're kind of awed by the whole process. But once they get comfortable, then it can get crazy really quick. And if you start crazy, it's almost impossible to bring them back. So start calm and work up to crazy. One thing I can say for sure is never say smile. You don't say it, don't let the parents say it behind you, don't say smile. Just don't do it, because it will never get you the expressions, the true expressions that you want to have. There are a couple things that are really important to me in my work. One is authentic expression, great lighting, but also movement, some kind of movement in my work. I like that feeling that it's not static. So even when kids are sitting, I like to keep them from looking too posed. I might have them, I'll say, shift a little bit on your bum or move back and forth. And it just keeps something from getting too posed. Or if they're standing, I might have them shift from foot to foot so that it just keeps everything from being too static. We might even bust out the fan for a blowing hair shot. Anything to introduce a little bit of movement. For major movement, which is really kind of fun, kids love this, is to practice what we call the flash dance. I tell the kids, every time light flashes, I want you to do a different pose for me. So it's flash, different pose, flash, different pose. And they love that. Now, do I get great images every single time it flashes? No, because half the time they're flipping around, their hair's in their face, or they're not doing what I would really want them to do, but they're in the movement, they're in their natural element, and then what happens is at the end of the flash dance, 3 or 4 shots, they start cracking up, and you can get really good natural expressions from that. Another way to keep things from getting too stiff, especially if you're doing a group shot with either a family or a group of kids, is I'll say, okay, everybody look at so-and-so. I'll call out somebody's name. Everybody look at so-and-so, change the name. And it's so funny because whoever I say, whatever name I say, everybody look at Tobin. Tobin looks at me, and then everybody looks at him, and then they all crack up. You'll find your own techniques like this, but that's a really good starting point to keep things from getting too stiff. Another thing I might say is, look deep into my lens. That kind of cracks up some of the kids. Or for young boys, at the end of a shoot, after we've done the flash dance, I might have them strip off their shirts and show me their muscles. Because boys, let's face it, are in love with their bodies from the day that they're born, and it really actually never ends. So let's highlight that and show off those big muscles. It's so great. I love to see a shot of a skinny little 9-year-old showing off his big muscles, and he doesn't realize that his ribs are showing. In our studio, the big finish is basically a free-for-all dance party. We crank up the music, we pull out the suckers, they can get into the prop bucket and pull out whatever stupid, crazy thing that they want, whether it's a clown nose, the big pencil, whatever, and then we just crank the music and they just dance, dance, dance. It's totally low percentage shooting, but it's part of the experience, and sometimes I get some of the really fun, most amazing images out of that. So keep an eye out for serendipity. Don't get so locked into what you have envisioned that you miss the fun that the kids bring with them. Also, remember to shoot something for yourself in every shoot. It might be in the middle when you're kind of going a little different direction than you thought, might be at the end. But don't forget to do that. You want to give the clients what they want, but you want to take a minute and shoot something for yourself. Kids are open to the world, and you never know what they'll do next. Don't put your camera down until they've left the studio, because inevitably they're going to get their sucker, they're going to get their prize, and they're going to turn around and do something heartbreaking and amazing, and your camera's already in the bag. So take my advice, don't put that camera down until that kid has left the building. You don't have to photograph kids for a long time to discover there are some common problems with expression. You'll encounter these again and again. Here are some ways that I found to get around the most common expression problems. Number one, you run into a young child or toddler who just doesn't want to pay attention or doesn't want to cooperate or stay where you want them to stay. The solution for this is to get them distracted by something else. Usually they're used to somebody kind of bossing them around and telling them what to do, but I'll just say, get really quiet and say, shh, do you hear something? Do you hear that bird out there? And if they're not screaming, they'll kind of stop and look, and you have a half a millisecond to get a shot. My very favorite solution to this, though, is that reverse psychology works great with toddlers. So whatever it is that they have, or if their dad is or mom is standing next to me, I'll say, oh, that's my dad. And immediately they're like, it's my dad. And I say, no, it's my dad. And usually they will just crack up laughing. They think it's so funny, and then they go back and forth. Another thing that works really well in this instance is I'll have their parents standing next to me, and I'll say, okay, Dad, whatever you do, don't you tickle me. And then the kid's watching like what's going on, so you might get a confused expression. That's a cute expression. You can snap that off. But then if the dad like jumps in and starts to tickle my arm, and then I'm like, no, don't do that, then the kid thinks that's so funny, depending on the kid. Sometimes kids cry, but usually they think it's funny and you get good response from that. So try it next time. Problem number two. This problem comes in when you have an older child. They tend to be too stiff, they're too locked up, they're too in their head thinking about how they look or what it is that they're supposed to be doing, usually oldest kids. One thing that helps them from becoming too stiff is when I'm posing them, I'll have them look at me and I'll say, okay, just put your eyes only to the floor and look back at me. Just that little movement of eyes to the floor and back at me, it keeps them from being too stiff. It's funny, but it really does work. Another thing that's kind of fun to work with older kids is I'll say, okay, give me the bored supermodel look or the mean girls look, or think in your head, whatever. Instead of being stiff like you want to get kind of more that sober look, I'll say, okay, bored supermodels, mean girls, or think in your head, whatever. And so you can get that kind of look. The flash dance, that's a really good one if they're really stiff and you kind of want to get them moving a little bit to give you a different look or a different pose every time the flash goes off. You can let them do that for a minute, maybe pop the flash a few times so that they can get loosened up, and then you can bring them back around. The fan is also a fun one to introduce movement. Bringing in a fan to introduce movement into their clothes and hair, and especially with young girls, they love to feel like, oh, I'm a supermodel. It's so amazing. Another common problem, not just for kids, for anybody that you're photographing for a portrait, is they tend to get tight in the mouth. You can see them, almost see their mind thinking, and it all shows up in tight lips. And it doesn't look good. So how do you get them to quit doing that? You can't just say, loosen up your lips, because they don't know what to do. So I'll say, do your rubber lips, blow a raspberry, or stick out your tongue, or do something crazy like that. And then it loosens up their lips. Also, you could tell them to breathe through their mouth, and then they can kind of slightly hold their mouth open, and it looks a little bit better. Another really common problem with 5-year-olds, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because they started having their pictures taken by the photographers at the school in kindergarten, but something happens at 5 years old that's developmental, and these kids go into the cheesy smile. Now, one way you can combat this is that you don't ever say smile to a kid. But one of the solutions that I found for this is going to be really embarrassing to show you. First of all, you tell them to do the biggest fake laugh ever. And so they'll go, ha ha ha, but they actually will do it. You make them do it really, really loud. And it's not when they're doing the fake laugh, it's just right after the fake laugh, you can get a natural expression. The other trick that I'll use is the 3 smiles trick. This works better with younger kids. I'll say, okay, there's 3 smiles. If I can tell that they're just getting too tight in the mouth, there's 3 smiles. Let me show you the 3 smiles. Here's happy. I don't want you to do that. Here's sad. I don't want you to do that. I just want you to do normal, pleasant, loose. And so they'll usually get that. And you run them through those 3 smiles. Show me the happy, cheesy smile, show me the sad, frown smile, and show me the normal smile. And then usually that'll loosen them up. But Generally, your good shot is somewhere in between those. It's never ever what you told them to do. It's in between what you told them to do. Their reaction to what you told them to do. These are some of the tricks that work for me. You'll develop your own bag of tricks. For this segment, I'm going to take you through a typical shoot from start to finish, and we're going to apply some of the tools and techniques we've already discussed. Our subjects are two darling girls, Phoebe and Daphne. They're sisters. Phoebe's 6 and Daphne's 10. They are very, very different, and each has a very definite style and unique sense of themselves. They're very close as sisters, and they get along well. The beautiful thing is that they're very comfortable around the camera. Because of their style, Daphne has a really modern, cool haircut, and the clothing that we're going to work with today, I wanted this to look really modern and kind of almost, not really retro, but kind of, a little bit modern. And so we're gonna start with our white seamless setup. This is a set that I'm standing on now. So we've got the white seamless background. We're going to have the lights on the background to have the background lit separately from our subjects. We've got this cool black and white sofa here with this interesting letter pattern on it to give us some good contrast. And then how I'm going to eventually present these images, they will be in black and white. So I want all of this stark contrast. Then, once we're done with the white seamless, we'll go into the individual shots. All I'm going to do is turn the background lights off, and that will allow our background to go gray, really quite dark gray. You'll be surprised how dark it is. The reason why I'm doing that is because Daphne brought this green prom dress with her that is probably 5 sizes too big for her, but she loves it, and her mom says she dresses up in it all the time. But it's this gorgeous, gorgeous color, and so I want that to be against this darker background, almost like a more painterly feeling. I may pop the honeycomb grid on the Octabank for that so that I can really control the light, keep the background really dark, and we're gonna put some pearls and some things with her and get all of that good contrast and rich color. We're going to use a lot of the props that the girls brought with them. So in addition to the prom dress, we're going to use probably some books and maybe the dolls that the girls brought with them. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to ask these girls for some particular poses, but I like to generally start out quiet and then get a little bit crazy later. So the kids are ready. Let's go. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. You ready for this? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do pictures on this couch. We're gonna start with kind of like soft and sweet and quiet, and then it's gonna get a little bit crazy, and then a little more crazy, and there might be some jumping on the couch. But your mom, we don't do it at home, only here, right? I know. Okay. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start low, and then we're gonna go crazy. Okay, so what I need you to do, this is your light right here. So we're gonna pretend like this is a window. So Daphne, come sit right here. Sit right here, and just stand up on the floor, put your feet on the ground. Okay, and so I don't want you to sit all the way back. Yeah, exactly. I want you to just kind of perch. Okay, so come a little more forward and put your feet, yep, and then kind of scoochy, go that way a little bit closer to the light. Oh, not too far, yep, that's good. Perfect, go, next to your sister. Okay, now you come a little bit more forward. Okay, so, love that. Okay, let me see you. So you can see that the light is really bright over here, but it's getting darker as we go over here. So we're gonna just, when I get out of the way, this reflector will show it better. Okay, it's gonna be great. Oh yeah. Okay, I love it. All right, and Daphne, can you take your arm and just put it over the back behind and not on her shoulders? On the, yeah, yes, just like that. Okay, I love that. So cool. Okay, now hang on a second. You guys look good. Totally. Okay, all right, here we go. Want. So we're gonna go quiet. Okay, turn this way. Cross your legs, Miss Phoebe. Yep. Oh yeah, oh my gosh, you guys look dangerous. Are you dangerous? You gotta look at me. Yes, yep. I don't even know what you're doing. I just know that I think you're a little bit crazy. Yep. Get her, Daphne. Is she ticklish? Is she? No, don't actually hurt. There's no hurting. Okay, come back. Okay, now be still. Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. Okay, stand up together on the couch. Get close to each other. Okay, and you're gonna do, every time that flashes, you're gonna do something different every time, okay? So give me, yeah, I love that. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Oh yeah, you gotta change it up more than that. Like jump. And you don't have to stop, just keep going. Go, whoop, whoop. Now look at each other and jumping, work that ponytail, Phoebe. Woo, hold hands. And then jump, ready, set, whoop. Cute. Okay, I love it. Okay, let's change. So we've got Daphne has changed into her favorite gorgeous formal wear gown, aided by a little tailoring in the back here. And then we're putting the honeycomb grid on the Octabank because I want this to be really, really moody. We've turned off the background light, we're going to turn off the background light, so we will not have white seamless. It's gonna go either dark gray, or maybe even black. We'll see what we get. Oh, wow, now see, that's exactly how I think the queen would stand. Can you turn your tummy a little more toward my light? Yeah, love that. Now, if you're a really bossy queen, how would you stand? Do you think bossy queens stand with their, maybe both hands on your hips? Like really, if you're gonna get really bossy, oh yeah. Okay, and then if you were like, get out of my sight. Yes, oh, beautiful. Okay, I love what you're doing, like amazing. So good, okay, now, if you were you're not a queen anymore, okay? You're a princess, all right? And princesses usually wear their dresses where they show a little bit of shoulder. Daphne is so pretty. That seems to be your best pose. You're amazing. Okay, one last pose and it's Phoebe's turn. Here we go. What's it gonna be? Yeah, oh, I love that. Cute. Okay, you're out, sister. Okay, so this is just messy. I want you to look like you just rolled out of bed. Yep. Just shake your hair a little. Yep, take a half step back. Yeah, I love that, I love that, I love that. Just so you're just standing there, don't even worry about what's happening with me. You're just perfect the way you are. Turn your tummy a teeny bit more toward the light, yep. Yes, love it. You're amazing, you're done. We've expended a ton of energy capturing images of these gorgeous kids. So where do we go from here? When it comes to the post-production process, it will come as no surprise to you that I like to keep things clean and simple. We do our initial edit in Lightroom by flagging only the yeses. I don't use a star rating or any kind of color coding system because for me, that takes just way too much time and thought. I work through the images flagging only those I have an immediate response to, leaving the rest unflagged. I work quickly through the images, then go back a second time through to unflag anything that might be duplicated or flag an image that I might have overlooked on the first pass. I can then filter the edit and see just the flagged images. For a kid's shoot, I try to show no more than 30 to 40 images to the client. Any more and it's just too overwhelming. At this point, I'll make any global adjustments to the files such as color correction, any minor tweaks to exposure that might be needed. Because I don't shoot on a tripod, I'm inevitably having to straighten up my horizons. Since I work with my lights in so close, I'll take a minute to crop the light out of the image if necessary. I learned early on that when I make myself take a little extra time to get the lighting and exposure right in camera, the post-production is so much more smooth and easy. On the flip side, when I allow myself to get rushed and don't take the time to really dial it in, I pay for it, big time, in lots of extra time spent in post-production. 5 minutes adjusting a light or your exposure during the shoot will save you an hour or more later on when you're editing the shoot. This is where the consistent lighting for my lights saves me so much time in Lightroom. Because I'm shooting in manual and shooting with lights that give me consistent flash duration from shot to shot, I can apply those color correction settings across multiple images by using the sync feature in Lightroom. This saves me a ton of time. Once I've narrowed the edit down to 30 to 40 images, made my global corrections and tweaks in Lightroom, I'm ready to show the images to my client. We only go into Photoshop for retouching once the client has selected those images that we will print for them. Lightroom is an invaluable tool for making adjustments to your images, but I find that the most valuable thing about a Lightroom edit has less to do with exposure and color correction and more to do with developing and refining my style. Every time I edit a shoot, I'm looking for something that I didn't expect. Sometimes it's an image that tugs at me and I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's an expression, or an unusual composition, or a shot that tells a story I didn't even know I was telling. Pay attention to those unusual, unexpected images while editing your own work. Share those images with your clients, even if at first they don't get it, even if they never buy it. Eventually, they will get it, and you'll become known for that type of work. Keeping an eye out for the unexpected in your work allows your work to evolve, leading you to create images that are as fresh and unique as the kids that you're photographing.
Akkor lehet, ami elmaradt. Angol. Azt mondja, hogy kedden nincsen megtartva az óra. És azt mondja, hogy akkor kedden első órában, mert kedden első órában nincsen angol, hogy csinálni. Na, vagy Robikák, most ne arra, hogy nem tudok veled foglalkozni. Tanuljál, az a lényeg, csináld az órát. Ennyi. Ez itt megállt. Megállt. Köszi. Nagy valószínűséggel azért lesz meg, mert vége van.